In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, one God, Amen. Thank you so much for having me with you. The topic for this evening is about the fact that we may have teenagers now in our home, and some of the common challenges that we face with raising teenagers. And Michael sent me 3 key areas that he wanted to touch on when it comes to teenagers and what we face with them at home. So rather than explaining to you these 3 aspects that Michael shared with me, I thought we'll have them displayed in the form of a skit, and then we'll provide some commentary on these scenarios that take place in our homes. So we'll get straight into it. So the very first one, we'll watch and see what takes place in homes.
يعني كل يوم الله كريس
ايوه يا بابا.
بتعمل ايه يا ابني؟
انا بتشيل حديد يا بابا عشان عايز اكون وحش.
كريس مفيش حاجه اسمها شديد، مفيش حاجه اسمها عضلات، مفيش حاجه اسمها كده. لازم تذاكر يا كريس.
لازم اكون وحش يا بابا.
يا ربي لازم تذاكر يا كريس. يا ربي سامحني يا رب، سامحني. كريس سيبك من الجيم، سيبك من العضلات، سيبك من الويتس. بليز حبيبي، بليز listen to me يا كريس، بليز.
مش قادر يا بابا.
بليز يا كريس. in the life the most important thing is مذاكرة.
بس البنات في الكلاس بتسميني كتكوت يا بابا.
ايه يا كريس؟ وايه يعني في كتكوت يا كريس؟ وايه يعني؟
بص الرجل بابا، دي رجل فراخ يا بابا.
ايه كريس وايه يعني؟
لا انا هشيل حديد يا بابا.
كريس
فينيش.
يا ربي يسوع يا ربي.
So the point here actually that we've observed is that teenagers are very interested and focused on their image and on their body image. And once they start their teenage years, they become very aware of how they look. And as you can see in this scenario, that Chris had a lot of interest in bodybuilding and looking after his physique. And his dad didn't understand that. And I think this is actually a common problem that we have with teenagers, is understanding what's in their mind and understanding what's important to them and not being dismissive of what is important to them. On the contrary, looking at it as an opportunity. It's an opportunity to connect at a deeper level. Now, if we were to replay that, and Chris's dad may have had challenges connecting with Chris, and he realized that, wait a second, he's really interested these days in his body and in working out. Let me take that as an opportunity. Imagine he came up to him and said, what kind of equipment do you have at the moment? What kind of equipment do you need? How can I help you? What's your goals? Do you want a gym membership? Well, how about we go to the gym together? So what can happen actually is if we understand what's of importance to our teens, then we can take it as an opportunity to connect. Now that's one example of someone who's interested in their physique. There are others, for example, a girl, teenage girl, who's interested in her appearance, her hair, her nails. Why not the mum go and have a pedicure and a manicure together and connect? You don't have to say, oh, you're too young for that. Just go and do it. Sit down next to each other and talk. You know? It's an opportunity. Recently, a father came to me and was saying that his son, his teenage son, is down and depressed, and So I said, okay, I'll speak to the teenage son. So I looked at the teenage son and I said, tell me, what's like the biggest thing in your life right now that's bothering you? What's disturbing you the most in life? What's upsetting you the most? He said, my weight. I feel like I'm overweight. Okay, that's it. If the dad understood that his overweight is burdening him, is making him down and depressed, well then that becomes the moment where they can connect. Let's work out a plan to lose weight. Let's get the gym membership. Let's go for walks together. And in that whole process, you're connecting because you're talking to each other. So the point here is try as hard as you can to understand what is running through the mind of your teenager and understand what's important to them. Because once you understand what's important to them, you can then address it and you can also connect. Recently, we were in a liturgy and ابونا was next to me and he said to me, I've been praying that God puts in my heart the feeling of what kids feel in the liturgy. And so he said, I prayed this and God put in my heart a feeling of tremendous boredom. And he was saying this to me because he's saying we have to do something for the children in liturgy. We can't just leave them in the liturgy and expect them to connect with God like we connect. But in the same way that ابونا asked for the feeling of what it feels like to be a child in the liturgy, we can ask God and say, God, put in my heart, what does it feel to be a teenager in this day and age? What are they going through? What are they feeling? What's their priorities? And never be dismissive and ignore it and belittle it, but take it seriously, embrace it, connect with it, and use it. Okay? All right. Part 2.
يا بابا
يا كريس
خلصت الاكزام.
وريني كريس وريني. يا حول الله يا رب. 50%.
بس انا مش عايز اكون دكتور يا بابا.
كريس 50% يا كريس.
يا بابا انا مش عايز اكون دكتور.
كريس لا انا رحت الاكزام واحط اسمي على الاكزام هكون 50%. الله. كريس انت فعلا يا كريس تعرف كريس انا بروح كنيسه وكل يا ربي يا كريس انا بروح كنيسه وكل حد امير بيقول لي ابني دكتور وماجد بيقول لي ابني مهندس واسمه ايه بيقول لي ابني مش عارف ايه وابني فاشل كريس عشان خاطري كريس بليز انت يو امبارس مي يا كريس
بس عندي بايسبس كويس
ولا بايسبس ولا غيره كريس بليز You embarrass me. I cannot walk في الكنيسة with my head high. مش أبدا. هروح walk في الكنيسة كده. يا ربي. كريس بليز. برا يا كريس. برا.
سكواتس يا بابا.
لا ولا سكواتس ولا غيره. برا.
Well, I guess this is probably the most common scenario that takes place. Yeah. I think the point here is that we're trying to look at the pressure that parents feel and the stress that parents feel with what their children are going through. And there's a concept here that I want to share with you, and that is a word from the Bible, and the word in English is compassion. And the word compassion was a word that was only used in the Bible about Jesus. It was used only 9 times in the New Testament, and all 9 times it was about Christ or a feeling that Christ had before he performed the miracle. So for example, the widow of Nain, she's going to bury her son. The Lord sees this burial taking place, and the Bible says that he had compassion, and then he touched the coffin and the boy raised. Yeah? And so many times it says the Lord was moved with compassion and then he performed a miracle. It's actually a divine attribute only used for Christ. And compassion comes from a Latin word which is compati. Compati. And it means literally to suffer with somebody. And in the Greek, it is described as a suffering, like a gut-wrenching suffering. You know when you suffer and you hurt and it hurts you in the stomach? It's a gut-wrenching suffering. It's not like empathy. You know, empathy is you feel for somebody, or you feel sorry for somebody, or pity. But compassion is to suffer with them, to feel their pain like they are feeling their pain. So as parents, we stress and we worry about our children, but that is good. It's good if it's directed in the right way, because it's compassion. It's suffering with our children. It's feeling the pain that they are feeling. It's feeling the stress that they are feeling. We're sharing it with them. When we understand it from, again, their perspective, we're feeling their pain, their suffering, then the way we begin to deal with them becomes very different. And so, what I think is important as we go through this journey of raising teens is that we have before our eyes a spiritual goal. It's not just about getting the most out of the kid or getting them on track. But there's a spiritual element to it all. And with the stress and with the suffering, it is a spiritual goal. When something has a spiritual goal, it becomes much more beautiful in the process. For example, somebody who's sick and in pain and suffering. There are some who take it joyfully, that they feel that the suffering that they're suffering is they're sharing it with Christ. So the same for our children. Our children are going through difficult times and stresses and exams and performance and not performing and all these things. Rather than getting annoyed and angry and letting that be a point of stress for you and for your children, rather let it be compassionate parenting. That we carry with them their challenges, we carry with them their pain, we carry with them their stress in a very loving way, with a spiritual goal that we're all growing in this spiritually, then the whole period becomes beautiful. Yeah? All right, part 3.
For the third part, please imagine a small child here sitting on the seat.
هلو يا حبيبي يلا تعال صلي معي صلي معي يا حبيبي يلا نصلي
فيروز سيب الولد
يا فتحي
مفيش حاجة اسمها صلي لازم اذاكر
انت قلت السلام على يسوع المسيح النهارده يا حبيبي
فيروز
يا فتحي
كلمة واحدة سيب الآية
بس الصلاة يا حبيبي
فيروز الولد من الصلاة والصوم مش عارف ايه والمطنيات ده ساعة ونص all this time take from the study يا فيروز
يا نادليس انت عايزة تصلي معايا يلا حبيبي سيبك
فيروز سيبه الله كلمة واحدة
ما يصحش
مش فيروز
ما يصحش
ما يصحش ايه
ما يصحش يلا حبيبي تعال معايا سيبك من ابوك قلبه اسود وتخين وريحته مش كويس وما عندهمش فلوس وفين الشعر بتاعه
لا فيروز في شعر اهو في بس ربنا ناسها كده ناسها هنا يعني
سيبك مني يا حبيبي وما عندهمش ركب كمان فينشت
Thanks, guys. You can go now. Thank you. The point that we wanted to demonstrate here is lack of unity in the raising of children. The mother had one approach, the father had a different approach, which is a problem in itself, but also the bigger problem here is that the discussion takes place in front of the child. So the child can sit there and sense that there's disunity in the way my parents see things. It's okay for there to be different opinions in how we raise our children, but it should never be on display in front of the children. So there's a principle here that I think is important to get straight, and that principle is that unity and love is a higher priority than anything else. It's always the highest priority. So in this scenario, for example, the mother believes that child should be dragged to prayer, the father believes that he should be left alone. But what is a higher principle is that there is love and unity. It would be better for the mother to leave him not praying and then to show that there is love and unity in the family. Because sometimes what we fight about are different opinions. The father believes that one way is better, the mother believes another way is better, and they're fighting about it, but actually the best way is that there just be love and unity. It's more important than what you're fighting about, if you understand what I'm trying to say. Yeah? So that's a key principle with raising our teens, that they always see unity. And if there's a disagreement, that can be discussed not around the children, in a way that is sharing discussion. You know, in every fighting sport, they fight, but there's rules. Like in boxing, for example, they're fighting. But there's rules to the fighting. So you can't punch below the belt. You can't kick. You can't use your elbow. You can't headbutt. There are rules to the boxing fight. And as couples, as husbands and wives, there are fights, but there needs to be rules around our fights. For example, we never raise our voice. That's one rule. We never say things to belittle the other person. It's another rule. We speak with love. It's another rule. We never do it in front of the children. That's the critical rule. So we can discuss and we can fight, but there has to be rules around the way we discuss and argue. Then when we come to the children, there is a unified approach. And even if something's taking place that I don't agree with, it's best to let it go, because what's important is that unity is more important than what I'm arguing about. All right? Okay, so they're the three areas that I was asked to look at. I was also sent some questions, and then if you have any other questions yourselves, we can take those as well. But I'll start with the questions that were sent to me. Okay. So the first question is, as a parent, is it necessary to apologize to my teenage child when I make a mistake, even if I struggle to do so? And how might apologizing or not apologizing affect the way my child sees me? So should we apologize to our children if we've done something wrong? I would say definitely we should be apologizing to our children if we've done something wrong, because it has a lot of benefit. The first is that the child grows to learn to apologize. If as a child you never hear your parents saying sorry, then how will you grow to ever say sorry to somebody? But if you can see that in your parents that it's fine to apologize for something, then the child will grow knowing that it's okay to apologize. Secondly, it teaches the children humility, because children look up to their parents as very high. So when they see somebody who's very high coming and apologizing to a child, that is the virtue of humility. And so children will learn to be humble by that. Also, when we've wronged the child, we have to restore their dignity. And restoring the dignity of the child can only be achieved by coming and saying that I'm sorry. We restore their dignity. Maybe you'll be thinking, oh, but they'll think less of me, or they'll think I'm a pushover, or I'm a walkover, or I think on the contrary, children will see tremendous strength in a father or a mother who is strong enough to come and say to their child, I'm sorry for something that I've done, or the way that I've dealt with something. I think it's very powerful. How to deal with stubborn kids. It's hard to convince them with anything. I think first of all it's important that we don't use negative language on our children. They actually are God's children, and they're not our children. We're just entrusted by the Lord to look after them, but they're God's. They're God's children. And so I think we need to respect them as God's children and to use positive language about our kids. I think it's important that we don't label them, even if it's not in front of them. Oh, he's so stubborn. Try not to use negative language about your children. Look at them in a positive light. And so I don't think our children are stubborn. I think in the teenage years, they want to start making decisions for themselves. And so sometimes if we are forceful in our opinions, then they don't feel they're making a decision for themselves. We ought to let them know that they are making the choices for themselves. So as parenting in these years, I think it's important that we give the information, that we give advice, that we discuss different angles, but then ultimately, they are making these choices themselves. And empowering them to make these choices, I think is important. And then eventually, they come to the right conclusions with your advice, with guiding them to talk also to a spiritual father, so they have another person that they're hearing advice from, and then altogether the child then makes their choices. But letting them be empowered to make their choices is important. My 17-year-old boy was talkative when he was young, but now not talking much. He feels at school and always in his room. He's going to talk. Is he going to talk again? Or will this be his personality? I think teenage years are not a permanent situation. They are maybe 5 to 6 years. You know, from year 7 to year 12 are a little bit challenging, but they change a lot after year 12. So I think what you're observing in the children kind of being less talkative or going into their room or changing in their personality, these sort of things are not permanent. But what's important is how we navigate them in those 5 to 6 years. If we navigate them well, then at the end of them, we have a wonderful, beautiful personality. If we navigate these 5 to 6 years in an incorrect way, then yes, we are affecting their personality afterwards. So what's taking place in the teenage years is not indication of how their personality will be after, but what's important is how we handle them. Yeah? So for example, this particular scenario and it's common, that a 17-year-old doesn't want to talk. You know, when they're little children, they come home and they talk about everything. Tell you all about school and about their teacher, about their friends, and talk. And you don't even want to listen to them. Like, khalas, all right. And all of a sudden they hit these years, and how's school? Good. What's happening? Nothing. Come talk to us? No. Come eat? I don't want to eat. Bring me my food here. And they close themselves off. Yeah? This is quite normal. However, we need to be creative in the way that we engage with our children. The problem sometimes is we are too direct and it becomes awkward. We go sit in front of them. Okay, tell me, how was school? Good, Dad, just get out of my room. But how's your friends? Dad, they're fine. Just get out. All right, talk to me, tell me, like talk. Remember we used to talk? Talk to me. Like, Dad, that's weird, just get out. We make it awkward. Like, just talk. You can't tell someone, talk to me. But we need to be creative in the way that we talk to our children. And doing it in a way that is non-confrontational, non-direct, but rather casual. Like Chris, who wanted to work out, if his dad said,
you want to go to the gym together. Imagine that. Imagine if Chris agreed to that. And they'd go to the gym together 3 times a week. And while they're working out, they're chatting. Adi. You know, well, Dad passed me this weight, passed me that, yeah, you know, what's happening? Oh, yeah, at school, my mate, he pushes 20 kilos. Oh, he's serious, 20 kilos? What's his dad do? I don't know. Just talk, casual. Not talk to me about your friends. Like, just, you create the environment to allow them to begin to relax and to open up. Or the mother who goes for the pedicure and the manicure with her daughter, and they sit in the chair next to each other, chatting. Oh, what color did you pick? What color? Oh, I like that color. No, this will be better on you. Oh, okay. Let's go do your hair. But just connect in a way that is non-confrontational. Go for a walk, go get some ice cream. Things that are casual, that create an openness and conversation and friendship and connection. And that's the way I think that we need to connect with our teenagers. It's not as simple now as them just speaking, and it's not as simple as just telling them to speak to me. We also need to be present. We need to be, give them time. I had one father recently who told me that his son, the exact scenario, goes to his room, comes home from school, goes to his room, doesn't talk to anybody, and that's it. They have to give him the food in his room. So I spoke to the kid, and I said to him, what's something that your parents do that annoy you? He said, probably that they got no time for me, and my dad works really late and then comes home late, and then when he's home he's doing all this other stuff and I hardly get to even talk to him. And I was so confused, because the father is saying to me, the kid's not talking. The kid is saying to me, my biggest problem in life is Dad doesn't have time for me. Now, I don't know what's happening in that house, but it's revealing that if the child doesn't feel that my parent has time for me or is interested to spend time with me, then they'll shut off even more. Oh, you're busy, you do your thing, class. And then when Dad comes home at 9 p.m. and says, opens the door and wants to talk, no, get out, I don't want to talk now. Yeah. So I think we need to be present, we need to give the time, we need to create the opportunity and the space for casual discussion and friendship. My son's different personality and views lead to judgment from his peers in the community and their parents. He also judges them in return. I'm concerned he may leave our church after finishing school. Look, I think that as teenagers they begin to form opinions of the world and of faith and of themselves. And it is critical in these years that they have somebody they can talk about with their views to guide the way that they're thinking. So I think in this particular situation, it will be critical that this person has a spiritual father that he can share the views with. Rather than going to his friends or the community and talking about these views, which is causing him to feel judged, I'd advise him to say, why don't you discuss your views in a safe environment with ابونا? And ابونا can create that environment, go for a walk, have a coffee, chat about these views, and if the views are a bit left field, ابونا can help direct these views in the right direction. My son is comparing our financial state to his friends' parents. He gets angry if they buy a new expensive car or if his friend gets an expensive branded shoes. You know, I think this is, again, a common issue and also magnified in our community because we are a close-knit community. And so when you're in a close-knit community, comparisons are easy and comparisons are actually natural. It's natural that we compare ourselves to the people around us. And for the kids, even more so, that they're comparing. They see their friends, they got a new car or their friends have new shoes or whatever it is, and they begin to compare with each other. Now, what I would say is that it's an opportunity to educate our children on giving thanks to God for what we have, and also educating them on the fact that these things don't give any joy or any pleasure or change the way we live. And we can explain to them, what difference does it make if we drive an Audi or a Toyota? What difference is that going to make? The car gets us from this place to this place. And we thank God that we have a car. It doesn't matter. So we just take it as an opportunity to educate them. However, there are some things we can do for our children that let them feel special. Like the example here was car and shoes. Car, yeah, we're not going to go buy a new Lexus to make the kid happy. That doesn't matter. And that's the opportunity that we teach them, that that's not really important. But shoes, we could get them some nice shoes. You know, we could save up and say, you know what, you want a nice pair of shoes? All right, this month we'll save up for the shoes. And maybe we can also make it a reward. You know, if you get certain results, or if you do a certain amount of work, then you'll earn the shoes. So it's still good to give them some luxuries, so they don't feel always that they're the ones that are missing out on everything, because there are some things in our control. I grew up with my parents. Obviously, my parents were very simple, not much wealth or anything like that. Living in a simple unit, you know, the usual migrant setup. And one thing that I noticed from a very young age with my mum is that we'd go out shopping. She'd take me to InSport or whatever it was and let me buy my Nike Air Jordan shoes. And then she would go to the second-hand St. Vincent de Paul shop and buy herself $2 shoes, second-hand. Okay. So as a child, I can see what she's doing. She's sacrificing on herself to give her children a little bit of extra luxury, a little bit of extra spoiling. Yeah? We can do that with our kids. We can be tight on ourselves to allow them a little bit extra, to make them feel special. And if that's what's taking place, and the kids feel that, well, then they will never be dissatisfied. They'll be very satisfied in their home, with their Toyota car, in their little unit, and it doesn't matter what their friends have, because they've seen a model of love, model of sacrifice, and trying to make them happy with small things. What if my son, 12 years old, feels he's not enough, or that we love his sibling more than him, or he's not as smart as his friends or his siblings? You know, I really believe that we need to listen to our children and hear what they say as a source of truth. Now, if my son is saying to me, Dad, you love my brother or my sister more than me, you probably do. Because they feel it. They feel your love to them. They see how you look at them in the eyes. They see what you give to one and not to the other. If they say, Dad, you always compare me to other kids, probably you are. So I think it's important that we listen to our children very carefully. And if they say it, believe them. Even if it's hard to believe them. Yeah? Again, recently I had a father who has 3 children. 2 are studying medicine and 1 is not. Okay? And the father calls and complains about the one that's not studying medicine. Not because he's not studying medicine, but just complains about his behavior generally and how he's dismissive of the family and he has behavioral problems. And then I said to the father, could it be that because the other 2 are studying medicine, that maybe you're like favoring them and he's feeling that? He said, no, never. I love all my children the same. They all know that I love them the same. I was like, I'm sorry I asked. Then I sat with the boy. I said, Dad's saying there are some challenges at home, that you're not connecting with the family, that you're disengaging behaviour. What's the problem? He said, oh, he loves the other two brothers more than me. They're his trophy boys. They're the ones doing medicine. We have to listen. We have to listen to what our children are saying to guide us in their needs. All right? That's the questions I have. Are there any other questions? Yeah. Yes, the question is, so an 18-year-old, we start to feel that our role is diminishing in their life. Do we still have a role? Look, I would say that we definitely still have a role because an 18-year-old is still observing mum and is still learning from your actions. So how can we control screen time and screen content? I think one method is agreeing a system together. Because we can sit with our children, we can explain what are the dangers and the problems with screens and with content and with extended screen time and what we're exposed to. And they will agree to that. They know the dangers. They're not going to disagree with that. So as a family, let's develop rules together as a family to protect all of us. And those rules may be certain filters are in place. The screens are used for certain times. The internet turns off at night at a certain time. We don't have devices in our rooms, we put it here. And actually we can all do it as a family. Even the parents can be part of those rules. So they see that it's not just on them, but we're all participating in these rules. But doing it in discussion and agreeing, so it's not forced on them, I think is a good outcome, if possible. Yeah. 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 Well, I think we still have a right to talk and to ask and to discuss. And so, or what are you watching? What are you going to watch tonight? Is it like, what's it rated? Is it suitable? What's it called? Do you want me to check it up and make sure that the content is okay? Because that is Christian living. It's not controlling them, and they understand that. So, is that that's good? Okay, awesome. It's not nothing bad in it. We'll check it IMDb. It's the ratings. All good. Okay, awesome. Hey, what are you listening to? Is it good content? Have you tried? Upper Room Media? Have you tried Christian music? Maybe ask ابونا if he's got some good stuff you can listen to as well. So it's I think just discussion, and you'll find that children are taking it all in, absorbing it. They won't push that away because it's not control. If they feel they're being controlled, that's when they rebel against it. You can't tell me what to listen to. You can't tell me what to do. You're like, turn it off, and it becomes a thing. But if it's just discussion, is it good? Is it suitable? Have you assessed it? Have you tried other stuff? Top good. All right, good on you. Okay, with discussion, I think it's the best. Yeah. All right. Any other questions? Yeah. Yeah. So this question around peer pressure, I think that one important principle as well with raising our kids is to always be thinking long term. When day to day, that we're thinking long term goals. And one of the long term goals that we're trying to instill in our children is the long term goal of confidence in their identity and who they are, especially in their identity as children of God and as Christians. That can't be achieved in a day or two or a week or a couple of months. It needs to be a long-term vision that we're trying to raise children who are confident in their identity. Because once you're confident in your identity, then you don't get swayed in the wrong direction by negative peer pressure. Yes, they can be doing the wrong thing, but that's not me. I'm not going to do that stupid. No, I stick to the right path. That kind of personality or characteristic of that level of confidence in their identity is built over time. And when we have a long-term vision of our children, then day to day we try to bit by bit hit at those points to build that strength. So I would just say keep that as a long-term goal, and any opportunity along the way that you're always instilling in them the feeling that they are Christians, they are children of God, and that they should be very proud of that. That is their identity, and we stay strong in that, and nothing pushes us off that pathway. Then when they're faced with peer pressure, they can, no, I'm not going to do that, no, I'm going to do that. Yeah. So it's not a quick fix, but it needs to be on our minds a long-term goal. Anything else? Yep. So when's the right time to talk to our children about gender issues and all the fancy stuff going on in the world these days? I would say we can talk about it indirectly from a very, very young age by normalizing what is normal. So always talking about husband and wife, always talking about marriage, always talking about pure love. Because from a young age, they're growing up thinking that's what's normal. It's always drilled into them, that's what's normal. Then at a certain point, we can address things more directly. And at that point, probably I usually say around year 6 is the time where you can talk a bit more directly about things. But before that, indirectly, and I always talk to my kids about. I make up stories about a man who fell in love with a woman and they got married and they had children. We were watching a movie and someone gets married. We talk about, oh, look, they fell in love and they got married, and husband and wife. And even if they kiss, I don't turn it off. I say, oh, that's the marriage kiss. And so they know when the kiss on the lips, that's the marriage kiss. It's for that. So I think it's just drilling in, that's what's normal. So normalizing what's normal. And then later on being a bit more direct about, no, that's wrong, that's weird, that's, yeah. All right, anything else? No? All right. Thank you so much, and ultimately we pray that God guides us in raising our children as they are His children, and He is the one that is raising them and looking after them, protecting them, and we are just in the Lord's hands. God bless you.